Welcome back to Cool Clubs headquarters. We're here in Scottsdale. We're back with Matt Bovee from TaylorMade Golf and Mark Timms from Cool Clubs. And this session, we're going to melt together the Fairway and the hybrid story for the new Stealth 2.
Perfect.
I want to start with the one that I think everyone's going to freak out about, which is the Stealth 2 Plus, the old titanium version, and it has got this monster slider weight in it.
Oh yeah, the Stealth 2 Plus fairway. I mean, it's not only is it like a very technologically advanced fairway wood. I think it's beautiful to look at, and it's easy. It's extremely easy to hit for a fairway wood. If for anyone that's gone down this titanium route on the fairways, when you're able to put all this weight in the sole. You mentioned this big movable weight's 50 grams. Your center of gravity goes way down. And when you can actually align the center of gravity in a fairway wood with the impact location, because obviously you're hitting it off the ground more than anything, it's so much easier to get in the air, and it just makes it a more forgiving club. I mean, the 3-wood's the hardest club to hit in the bag.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah, everybody agrees with that one, and we want to make it as easy as possible, and the Thai fairway does that.
Yeah, I've been playing that titanium fairway wood for probably 3 or 4 generations actually, because I'm older now. I don't hit as hard as I want, so everyone looks at what do you want out of a fairway wood, and a lot of people want to get it off the air and get it going. I want the longest fairway I can get, so as close to the par fives as I can get, and because I rarely hit off the tee anymore. And they've been all great. I mean, every year, the last 3 years, you guys have had the longest fairway width because it's titanium, obviously, and it's adjustable and all that stuff. Look was okay. It was white. It looked better last year when it was black. Sounded a little funny, but this thing is phenomenal. Kind of like you fixed everything. And tell us about how this works and what it does, because it's I think it's one of the coolest fairways out there.
Yeah, sure. So everyone can just kind of get a peek at the club while we're talking about it. We have it up on screen here. There's a lot going on. Obviously, you see the sole. So this is the Thai fairway. It means the body's going to be Thai. It has a carbon crown to it. There's a new carbon crown construction with all of our Stealth 2 fairways. You get this infinity wrap on there. It means we're just saving more mass up top, essentially, and we're able to reposition it in places.
Infinity mapping wraps around more.
I can pull up a picture of that
type thing.
If we
you see no like rail around the edge. Basically, the carbon just kind of disappears off the backside.
Yeah, with the exception of there's like a little button back sort of deal. There you go.
Yeah.
So this is we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but this is showing all 3 models and their different the volumes associated with it. But you have Plus, you have the core model, and then you have the Stealth 2 HD. You can see how the carbon now goes all the way to the end, with the exception of there's a little weight, and it's really allows us to. It's where we want to position weight to make it more forgiving. But again, we're saving more mass, and we're able to do fun things like put it in that titanium weight. So back to the Plus model here. Sorry, that's the core model. This is why you don't direct and produce your own. I don't know how Tom Cruise does it. Anyway, so this is the Plus model. Like I said, 50-gram movable weight. When people think about movable weights, they typically think heel to toe. I get to a control draw fade. That is not the case with the Stealth 2 Plus. That is not the goal. What we've essentially done is we've created kind of 3 fairway woods in one head, because this 50-gram movable weight goes from front to back. And what that does is it repositions the center of gravity, and it's going to allow you to adjust your launch and spin numbers. So essentially, really, you just add more versatility into this. We've had some shaping changes, and of course, all the technology that's built into this beyond. Like, our fairway woods are very well known for their performance. They're extremely popular on tour, even with non-contract players. And that's thanks in part to technologies like the Speed Pocket, because that really allows that face flexibility to increase low on the face, and that's where you're hitting it in fairway woods, right?
Right. Yeah.
Drivers, of course, it's nice to have that, but we tee the ball up, so it's easier to find higher on the face. With the fairway wood, you're really hitting down on that leading edge area, and if you can expand that sweet spot, that flexibility low on the face, it means more performance.
It's the bottom half of the face you're really worried about, right?
Exactly, and that's part of why these are so popular. So I'm going to
50 grams is a lot of weight, too, because you talk about adjustable weights, too. You're talking about 10 or 5, or you're moving a 2 and an 8, and if you move a 2 and an 8 heel and toe or whatever, I mean, that's really only moving 6 grams, right? Because the difference is moving back and forth. I mean, 50 grams is a lot of of weight.
I wish I had one to just drop in your hands. I love doing that to people, because then
the whole weight of the head is what?
217 maybe, something like that.
So I mean, that's a good 25% of the mass of the club.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I'm excited about this yesterday. I get out there and I'm like, I'm going to hit this.
Oh, you hadn't hit it yet, right?
I hadn't hit it. I hadn't even seen it.
I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing I saw out there.
And I said to the guy, just I don't care how you set it up, just set it up. So he gives it to me. I'm all jacked up. pardon the pun. And I'm like, okay, let's hit this thing, and it just goes straight up.
It took me a second to get the pun. I'm like,
straight up in the air, and I'm like, this is their tour model. This is the low model. So then I flip it over. I'm like, okay, the weight's all the way back. So let's throw it all the way the other way. So I throw it down to the front, and it just came out like a rocket, like the 13-degree thing, really low. And I think as a fitter, that's what's been a struggle for a lot of us with a good player, is that fairway woods are going as far as drivers or close to it. And it's like, how do we get someone who's, a 300-yard guy with the driver, how do we give them something that's actually useful in the bag? Mm-hmm. And it's flight change. They need flight. They want it to go up. They want to be able to stop it on a green at 260 yards or 270 yards in some cases. And I think this is finally the all-rounder, where they can turn up one week and have it as a, British Open all the way forward.
Sure.
Or you can go out to Florida and throw it all the way back and stick it on the green. And it's incredible. It really is great tech.
Yep. What is because I noticed probably, 500 or 600 RPMs easily, and I'm only swinging a driver at just under 100. Obviously, you get more speed, you get more differences. But what are you seeing with the tour players? Like, close to 1,000 RPMs change from front to back?
Well, I think the closest thing we have to a tour player with us right now is Jack. Jack, how many RPMs did you see?
Roll speed-wise, maybe, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was having about 2,700 when I whipped it all the way forward, and 11.5 degrees of launch. And I was hitting off a little tee because I've got a lack of talent off the ground. And then I threw it, when I had it all the way back, it was just over 3,400, I think, something like that. Yeah. So what was that, 700, 800 RPMs? Yeah. But it was launching at 14. So it was such incredible difference, like 3 degrees of launch. And
that's like two clubs. There's a difference between a 3-wood and a 5-wood almost. So you got basically the option to go from, a strong 3, all the way up to week 4 in the same club. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I saw when I first tested this, and it was a quick demo session, I saw in the neighborhood of 750 RPMs difference with, I didn't see quite that large of a launch change for me, but again, I just slapped a couple. It was on the order of more like half, 6/10 for me, but that's still that's visibly noticeable in terms of for a player.
It's not a little bit. I mean, it's way down in the air and straight up in the air. It's
to help elaborate a little bit on exactly how this is working, I pulled up a cross section of the head. So this is like if you cut one in half and you looked at it, because we want to show players how we move this weight back and forth. So in the stock setting, it ships in the middle. So if you were to go into a store, your fitter's going to start you out. They should start you out here, and this is going to be the 3-wood setting. We have the weight where it'll slide forward, and that moves the CG forward, which makes the CG projection lower on the face, so it's going to get lower launch, lower spin. This is more like the Rocket 3 sort of setting, right? Which we typically have a Rocket 3 model or somewhere in our lineup. And then if you take it and you put it all the way back, you see the CG is going to move back, and your projection is going to move back, so you can get higher launch, higher spin. It's also going to be more forgiving in this setting, and it's more of what we typically would have as a 3HL. Yeah. You titled it like a 4-wood, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So you saw that weight tuck into what we affectionately refer to as the garage. So it actually gets really close to the face, and then people when you first pull the weight out, because they think it's that's the weight, what they see at first. Yeah. And then it just keeps getting bigger, and they're like, whoa. Right. Because half of it's hidden.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it moves a long way too. Yeah. One thing is having all that weight down there. Obviously, in the lower CG is better because it's all up in the air, high launch, low spin. That's all good. You talk about 50-gram weight. If you moved it a little bit back and forth, it doesn't make as big a difference. But that thing moves a fair amount of distance. Yeah. It's also not just the amount of weight; it's how far it moves.
Exactly.
Right, and that's a lot. What does it move like an inch almost? Close to it.
I'm not going to BS you. I don't know what that one on. Okay, I'm sure Toma would have been able to tell you that. But
I feel like it's got to be an inch. I watched him rip it yesterday. It might even be more than.
Well, it's the size of the channel, right? So whatever the channel width is, it's probably close to an inch. That's a lot of weight to move. A very long distance. Right.
It actually changes the fitting. At least what I have done. So there's really good players that want to see launch, and actually our producer GM Jared over here, plays it in a 5-wood. And we open the face up a little bit and get it launching. So we did a bunch of that. Mm-hmm. And maybe that doesn't happen as much this year. Maybe we just get it and slap the weight all the way back, and people are going to get the launch that they want.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple tour anecdotes around that already. Colin Morikawa is very particular about his product. He wants to see certain windows, certain numbers, certain feel. And the 3-wood's been one that's been a little bit of a challenge to find him exactly what he wants in newer stuff. And we were already playing with the 3-wood and being able to tweak it. First it was launching a little too high, spinning a little too much for him in terms of the number he's trying to hit. So we put it all the way forward, and then that was a little bit too strong. And then so we went in between, and he was like, "Oh, this is great." So high expectations for that one. Another good story that I just got from the tour team and Tomo is funny. Scott Stallings, who everybody is familiar with now, whether you knew him as a PGA,
with us next door.
Yeah, he comes
yeah,
in a lot.
does he really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Did he get his Masters invite yet?
That's a good question.
I don't know. He got that guy to send it. He's
Right.
nice enough to say, "Hey, I've got this."
I totally would have shown up if I was that guy. I wouldn't have sent Scott the invite. Anyway, so sometimes he'll play a 5, sometimes he'll play a 7. But now with this one, he's able to just play the 5, and then he changes the position of the weight depending on the course. Like you were
You could
mentioning,
even
like
dial
you
it.
said,
I
the
didn't
St.
think
Andrews
about
thing.
that.
I didn't think about that either.
Tour players on a 5 wood, they could kind of dial in for a long par 3 or a par 5, and the range they're looking for, they can actually change the distance.
Whatever that course demands. And then, like, for me, you
cool.
mentioned, like, you want the longest fairway possible.
Yeah.
These tie fairways, for me, they're so long that, like, they don't really have a place in my bag anymore as a 3-wood.
Right. Second driver.
Well, it's just I don't find myself into many par 3s needing to hit at 270.
Right.
And so what I've done is I've moved to a 5-wood, which is just a tire launch. It's a little more forgiving. It's easier to hit. And I do it with the tie, and I hit the number I'm looking for. But now I have more loft, and loft is your friend. Yeah. So, again, like, you could be a better player, and don't sleep on these ties just because you're like, well, I don't need to hit it that far. Think about, well, maybe I don't use a 3-wood anymore.
No,
maybe
I love that. I love that.
Oh,
idea.
no, that's quite possible.
I like the idea of having the 5 and then ripping it back and playing more like a 6, 7.
Yeah, I got to touch on something that I noticed dramatically. It's a sound improved this year over last year's by a bunch. Now, I mean, like I said, I want the Fairway goes as far as possible. I don't really care about sound. I'll play a square box if it works better. But this thing sounded phenomenally better, I think, than last year's model.
Good.
What have you done to change that at all?
The R&D team, they work very, very hard on getting sound. Sound is feel.
Yeah, exactly.
In a certain window, we have certain frequencies that we try to hit, and you look at ribbings and the way that, like, the sole. So a lot of the sound comes from the way that the sole flexes at impact, and the way that we brace around, like, say, the channel here, which houses the weight. Those are typically points of flexibility. But basically, when we make the sole more rigid, we can up the frequencies, and I'm sure that's what they did in terms of how they reinforce this track, the orientation of the track, all of those things. Yeah, it's very good.
Definitely sound for all the technology that's involved. It's titanium too. It really sounds good, and it looks great too.
Yeah, thank you.
We could have done a whole podcast on that one. So
probably.
let's roll into the other tech
right.
because I know that actually the HD. I don't want to bowl over the core model, but the HD model has got some great story behind it too. To touch on the differences in these two.
Sure. Okay. So the core model itself, obviously, like, again, we're known for our high performance fairways. I'm going to pull up an image if you guys want to take a look at it. So this is going to be full-on stainless steel construction. It's got the speed pocket. It's got that infinity carbon crown that we talked about. And what we've been able to do is we're positioning more mass low in the club head and further back. So you have a lower center of gravity and you have more forgiveness. And that's really kind of the theme through all of the Stealth 2 woods is an increased level of forgiveness. And in the woods and in the fairway woods and in the rescues, you're going to get a lower center of gravity. So that's going to be easier to hit. It's going to be easier to launch, and now it's more forgiving. All three very, very good things for players. And then with the this model here, we've refined shaping a little bit, the leading edge a little bit. We've added a little bit more curvature. It's not quite as flat. That gives you more versatility from a range of lie angles, etc. So again, it's just refinements to making it more playable because it's a different. It's a difficult club to hit, and we want to help players find more success more often. And then a big new addition this year with Stealth 2 is the addition of the HD fairway and rescue. I know we're going to get into rescues, but really, and of course, and spoiler alert, we have an HD iron as well.
No, exactly.
So if you're an HD player, anybody that struggles with missing the ball,
90% of the population that's like that.
Yeah, exactly. You now have a solution through your entire bag, and the HD fairway is honestly, it's incredible. Even if you're not this player, you don't think you're an HD player, hit it,
right?
Test it out, check the ego at the door because this thing is like a cheat code. It's honestly,
and the Stealth, the regular standard Stealth,
very easy.
There's a lot of guys on tour playing that one as well, right? So we talk about the plus obviously for tour players for smaller profile and all that stuff, but there's a lot of guys using the regular one as well.
So since we're diving into the depths of tech, I'm going to pull up this chart that most people would be like just snoozing at, but I know this is why people are listening. Yeah. So on the y-axis here you have CG projection, and on the x-axis you have your MOI or just forgiveness and in I guess like loose terms. You can see Stealth 2 Plus there, and it shows the different positions with the different weights. And you see this trade-off between CG projection and forgiveness.
Yep.
The lower your center of gravity,
More forgiving, but
the less forgiving.
okay, right.
The more forgiving, the higher your CG. This is why when you go to more forgiving products, you see your spin rates go up and you see your distance drop. Yeah. Okay. So there's this trend line across the industry. I pulled the names off of these, but everybody makes good stuff.
Yep.
This is the trend line. This is physics. We set out to break this. You see Stealth 2 shown on this graph. You see that the CG still stays very low, but it's more forgiving. Like we talked about, that infinity carbon crown, being able to reposition mass, all those things. So we set out and we said, well, why doesn't anybody live in this area, which is off to the far right, very clearly breaking the trend line. And really, that's what we tasked the R&D team with, and we went through. And this HD model, when it all came down to it,
wow,
what we found was
off the scale.
It's literally off. It's literally off the chart. So this is the chart that we set off with the team, and these were the bounds, and we said this is where we're going to live. And then you keep that same chart, and then you go through and you measure it, and it's actually it was off the chart.
All right.
So while it sounds like a fun catchy marketing, it literally was off our chart. And
that's the HD.
Yeah, this is the HD. So it's really our most playable fairway wood ever. So we've measured a lot of fairway woods. We haven't measured every fairway wood ever created, so we can't say that from a legal perspective.
Right,
but
an awful lot
in terms of compared to every other fairway wood we've ever measured, this is significantly more forgiving than any other fairway wood we've ever measured at TaylorMade. That's TaylorMade product. That's competitor product. Again, we haven't done every one in the world, but we do all the big ones.
Yep.
And because fairway woods are such a hard club to hit, and
it's the hardest one to fit, right? I mean, it's
it's
the lowest loft of the club you don't get to use a tee with.
And people have a big ego about fairway woods, and ladies and maybe older guys and even juniors, they want a 3-wood. And it's a hard conversation to have. It's like you haven't got enough speed for a 3-wood. You haven't got the right angle of attack for the 3-wood. So if you can get them in something that says 3 on it, and it might be a 16 degrees in this case, acts like a 4, yep. And it goes up in the air, the ego's not hurt, and they've got something that actually works for them, and everyone's happy.
Yep, exactly. So the HD, you literally just nailed it. The 3-wood is 16 degrees, which is going to be 1 degree weaker than the core model, and that's again to just help get the ball a little bit more airborne, add a little bit more spin. We want to differentiate the product performance and have a meaningful difference between the clubs for fitters. Right. And that's available in a 3, 5, or 7. The core is available in a 3, 3HL, 5, 7, 9. There's a big trend towards weaker lofted fairway woods. You have great selection. We have more fitting tools now with the fairway woods than we've ever had.
It sounds like we really ought to try the HD with more players than we think. Right? So don't leave it for just the guys that slice it, but drive a lot more people.
One of the best players at TaylorMade, I mean, there's a handful of guys that are really good, but one of the best players at TaylorMade, he is all about the HD.
Rory McIlroy.
Okay, sorry. Fun fact. People are like, oh, yeah. So you work with Rory McIlroy? Well, yeah, he's a coworker. He's a colleague. No, non-tour players. He actually runs our putter lab. He's used to be at the Kingdom. Anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but very, very good player. He loves the HD, and he is not somebody that struggles with missing it right. It's really easy to play.
I like it when it's like it's a squat crown, slimmer profile. Mm-hmm. I just think people stand behind that and have confidence. It's like, I can get this under the golf ball. Yep. And if you see another degree of loft on it, even more, you're like, this is going up in the air. And that's what a lot of people freak out about. They make actions that are trying to get the ball in the air rather than just letting
they try to help it. Pass. That's not necessarily what you want to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That was awesome. So let's dive back into the hybrids a little bit. So similar tech, right?
So very, very similar tech story here. I'll pull up the image of all three so people can see the line again. Here's the theme: Plus, Core, and HD. And the Core model and the HD model have the same sort of infinity wrap carbon crown concept. Same story: lower center of gravity, more forgiving, easier to play. HD stands for high draw. So anytime you see that on a product, it's designed to help eliminate that right miss or give you a draw depending on what your normal shot shape is. And then in the Stealth 2 Plus Rescue, that's going to be a little bit more iron-like in shape. It's designed to have higher spin rates than the Core. It's a different type of player. That's one where you're trying to hold greens. You're not necessarily trying to hit it as far as you can. It's not what I call. Sometimes I refer to them as advancement clubs. For some players, it's like you're on a par 5. You're not the type of person who's like, well, how far to the green? It's like I just need to get this as far down as I can, as successfully as I can.
Right.
the Plus is designed to be hit into a green, long par threes, whatever it is. So you have enough spin to be able to make sure you're working shots, holding it. Again, different player type.
Yeah.
And then you get into the more forgiving, more distance-based rescues in the Stealth 2 Core and Stealth 2 HD.
And Stealth 2 HD's biggest story again is like very low and back.
Yeah, same deal. That's the theme. I mean, that's how you create the performance that this player is looking for. So in a fairway and a rescue, you're going to do the same sort of thing.
And the same story on loft. I'm assuming you might not even do a 3 in the HD. You just go straight to like a 21 or 22 degree.
You have a 3, but it's at 20. Yep.
Right.
And
Okay.
then
That's
again,
a weak 3.
it's a week 3. It's 1 degree weaker than the core model. It's set at 19. So
Yep.
again, same sort of deal. Yep.
Yeah.
And it seems a little deeper front to back as well. Keep
Yeah.
the CG lower and get the ball up there.
Yeah, and further back, you're also going to be able to add more forgiveness associated with
Yep,
that. So
exactly.
there you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to talk about the irons because I know that's going to kind of flow
Yeah,
into this
yeah,
conversation a little bit too. So,
Sure.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks.
Cheers.